mind thing is you have to win.
Ill intent, violence, physicality, pain. Enough is enough.
All right, welcome back to the Just Win podcast. We are live after the Raiders lost 27-20 to the Kansas City Chiefs in Allegiant. That's Tashan Reed. That's Vic Tafer. I'm Ted Wynn. They were at the game. This was a game that was surprisingly competitive. The Raiders were 10-point underdogs at some point, but it seems like the Chiefs were trying to give them away the game, but the Raiders just wouldn't take it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they were trying to give him. I don't know if they were trying to give him the game necessarily, but I mean, it was there for the taking, even if they didn't want to give it to him. But the Raiders definitely, I would say, squandered an opportunity in this one to really get what would have been a huge win for them, kind of similar to when they beat them on Christmas Day last year. I mean, all the way into the fourth quarter. I think it was more so a story of like, despite the Raiders continually shooting themselves in the foot, they just kept hanging around in the game. Like that was more so the way I would describe it. But ultimately, they couldn't pull it out in the end.
I guess it was similar to the game last year where there was those two huge defensive plays that kind of turned the game around last year. And this year there was that one today we saw with the tip by John Jenkins and the Trayvon Merrick interception, which really kind of was a huge moment in the place. Even the Raider fans that were here, that were outnumbered by the Chiefs fans, got really loud, and you could definitely feel the energy. And there was the time to kind of seize, that you really want to try to win this game. But clearly, what happened next was they couldn't score. They had 4 cracks at it. They got stuffed on 3 runs. Then Minshew was sacked. That was kind of the turning point and kind of the end of the game, really. But there was some similarities. I think the Chiefs obviously have struggled all year offensively. They missed a lot of receivers. Now, today they were better, but they still had moments where they weren't really the old Chiefs, they used to be. I think they got traded for a receiver at some point. But the defense played well. The defense
traded for DeAndre Hopkins, man.
Yeah, but maybe one more though. So I think the defense played pretty well. I think they kept them in the game. I thought Gardner Minshew was fine. I mean, obviously the one turnover, but it was a close game. I mean, I think mentioned the points, but it was 10 points, and they were down 14, and they got the garbage time touchdown, so to cover the spread. But I think I don't know if it was really that close at the end, but whatever.
Well, let's get into game management. It's not the only reason the Raiders lost this game, but it's an ongoing issue with Antonio Pierce, and something that I think if you're thinking that Antonio Pierce is the long-term answer coach, you want him to get better at this. And this is just another game where there's been puzzling game management decisions. And the first one I want to talk about, the Raiders get the ball back before the first half ends with 150 remaining. First down, throw the ball to Jacoby Myers, 0 gain, clock's running. Second down, 2nd and 10, they run the ball for some reason for 2 yards. And if you're trying to run out the clock, maybe, but then you're in a long yardage situation. The Chiefs have 2 timeouts. They take one of their timeouts. You end up in a 3rd and 8, and the Chiefs blitz Gardner Minshew. He's looking right at his hot route again. For some reason, he doesn't throw it. He scrambles to the right. He throws it incomplete, and the clock stops. The Chiefs get the ball back with a minute, and they get to keep their timeout. And they get a field goal right before halftime to go up 17-10.
Yeah, that was pretty terrible. I mean, we asked Antonio Pierce after the game, and his quote was, we wanted to score, but more importantly, we wanted to keep the clock running, which is just an insane thought process to me. Like, your priority there needs to be scoring first and foremost. And at that point, I mean, the offense, they were playing well. It was sort of a weird first half. Like, there weren't really that many possessions for either team, but the first drive was a touchdown, second drive was a field goal, and then there was that drive. So, like, it wasn't like the offense had been, they committed 2 turnovers and they were really stinking it up, and there was a reason to think that they weren't capable of moving the ball. Like, they were moving the ball really well early in the game against the Chiefs. And then they just basically didn't try to score before halftime, and in effect gave the Chiefs a layup to go cushion their lead a little bit more. And so That one was really bad. I was pretty shocked by it.
Yeah, I think their intent was to not give the Chiefs the ball back, more so than we're going to try and score ourselves. Like, do not give the Chiefs the ball back. So they're really trying to kill the clock. And I did, like you mentioned, the hot read, he hits that pass and it takes more time off the clock, and maybe they bust that second down run. But clearly, they should have had some better play calls. And that's been kind of the issue, ongoing all year long. I think, like Tashan mentioned, there have been spurts. I mean, definitely the Baltimore game. I think that was I want to say it was the Browns game where they played. They had all those reverses and all the jet sweeps that they got against the Browns.
Yeah.
I think it was. And then today, they had some really wide open plays. And, obviously, Jacoby Myers back is a big deal. Kind of gets the rest of depth chart down to where it should be. And Trey Tucker had a decent game today. So I think for some reason, I don't know if they got conservative or I really don't know what the conversation is between Luke Getsy and Antonio Pierce. Like, I know Antonio wants to run the ball, and they're both, I don't know if they're both stubborn about it, but at this point, clearly to me, forget running the ball. I mean, obviously that's ideally what you want to do, but when you're moving the ball like they were, and Garner's rolling out and he's finding guys, and he's in a rhythm and has some confidence. I mean, that's been an issue for him this year with the turnovers, but he was kind of rolling for a little bit today, and all kind of stopped. And I'm sure the Chiefs made some adjustments and they took away Brock Bowers to some extent, but you still got to throw him the ball. I mean, he's that good a player even if he's covered. Like Devontae used to always say, he's not really covered. So I thought that was a big mistake, but. Yeah, I thought they got conservative. I thought they definitely tried to run the ball, and they clearly cannot run the ball very well this year.
Yeah, I think Minshew was mostly fine today, but some of the issues that keep popping up with him is his issues against the blitz, and those things showed up at the worst times possible. Like in the beginning of the game, he was doing a good job, quickly getting rid of the ball and not holding it. But then, like when they needed him to make a play, the old Gardner Minshew showed up. And an example is when they got the ball back at the goal line after the interception with the tip with John Jenkins. They run the ball 3 times in a row. That's bad play calling. You run the ball 3 times in a row. You get stuffed 3 times in a row. You put yourself at the 3-yard line, which pretty much is a must-pass situation. And then they pass the ball. And on that play, the Chiefs decided to back off into a zone. They didn't blitz, and they didn't show blitz. It was just a 4-man defensive line. And the Raiders had kind of a man beater play called with the pick route, but since they dropped in the zone, it wasn't open. But Minshew had a clean pocket. And instead of maybe waiting on something, he decides to run straight into a sack. And he ran straight into a sack. And and then the Chiefs get the ball back. So to me, bad play calling and Minshew kind of just panicking and taking a sack. And I get it. He's pressured a lot. So he's kind of jittery, but it's just another example of bad quarterback play.
I'll have to watch the play again. I don't recall a clean pocket in that play. I mean, I think he was under duress a lot.
I watched it 3-4 times. He had a clean pocket.
All right. I only watched it once. I mean, I'll watch it again. But I think there are a lot of times against blitzes where he took some big hits and kind of delivered the ball pretty accurately, I thought, like 3 or 4 times. So, I mean, this O-line's not very good. I think that's part of the problem. And I think he bought some time when he could, but clearly he definitely had some frenzied moments, which are definitely been his downfall this year. But I thought it was, I thought it was actually pretty good today. I thought besides the fumble was a big play, but that's just kind of, I don't want to say fluky, but didn't throw a pick. I think it's only second time this year and has not thrown a pick. So
is that our standard now? Doesn't throw a pick.
Hey man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, like he was okay today, but like that. I mean, I'm not gonna just wave away to fumble. I mean, you're down 7 in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left, potentially to go tie the game up, and you fumble deep in your own territory, and they go extend their lead to 2 touchdowns. Like it was a pretty significant moment in the game, and he can't hold on to the ball, whether it's fumbling or throwing interceptions. And but I think even before they got to that point, like we were analyzing that end of the first half situation. He was playing well at that point, and there's reason to believe that they could have went and potentially scored on that drive, or a field goal, if not a touchdown. And then when they get the ball at the 3-yard line, I mean, for one, like damn, y'all can't get 3 yards. Like that's pretty. I guess Jack Jones, he had a pick 6 last year, but Trayvon Merrick didn't finish it off for him. But I just at that point, because they couldn't run the ball all game. I think Alexander Madison was averaging like 1.8 yards a carry going into that drive. Like, why do you give him the ball 3 times in a row? Like, he's not a good short yardage back. If you're gonna hand it off in that situation, like, why wouldn't you put like a bigger bruiser in like Zamir White, or like I think on the third run they brought Max Crosby in as fullback. Like, they were just doing weird shit, and it wasn't like they were running the ball well, and I know that's not necessarily an Antonio Pierce thing. Like, that's Luke Getsy as the play caller, but he's still the head coach. Like, you can tell him to stop beating his head against the wall at a certain point if it's clear that something isn't working. And I think they just, for some reason, they just would not give up on the run, even though the pass was working way better. And in situations like that, it really cost them. But I think, another situation where Antonio Pierce kind of dropped the ball, and this one was at the end of the game. While it was sort of a last ditch kind of situation, like, he burned all 3 of their timeouts like on the Chiefs' second to last drive. So when they scored, went on an 80-yard touchdown drive in response and had 2 minutes left, they couldn't stop the clock, and so they had to do an onside kick and couldn't get it, and that was pretty much the end of the game because they burned all their timeouts. And it's just like, I don't really know what possessed him to do that. Like, it was like 5 minutes left in the game, and he just ran through them, and maybe they lose at the end of the game anyway, but they kind of took away their chance to win based off that decision.
Like I said, ideally he's trying to stop the clock there and not give them a touchdown, which they wound up doing. But yeah, it was definitely. I mean, that's why the Chiefs were in that prevent defense, because they realized even if they already scored, they wouldn't get the ball back. So I think, yeah, I thought it was I don't want to say enjoyable game, but yeah, it was a quality NFL game. I think coming in, I was thinking maybe the Chiefs are gonna kind of blow them out, but the Raiders definitely, despite their injuries, despite their problems on offense, they're still a pretty tough-minded team. Definitely, they kind of came in with a good edge about them today. I thought they kind of had some aggression, and clearly they were in this game at some point, and they thought they had a chance to win it. So, and there's just no moral victories. That's what Max was talking about afterwards, and I agree with that. But I think if you're looking at, like Tony says, the culture of this team is set. I think today is a pretty good showing of what the culture is. Now they definitely kind of take care of business, and even if they have injuries and the quarterback problems, they still are competitive against the best team in the league.
Yeah, and before we move on, Mike, 2 criticisms I have of this coaching staff. One, like, the blitz plan was not good enough. We know Spags loves to blitz, and there was just too many times where they just didn't have an answer against a blitz. For example, on Minshew's fumble, they motion out into an empty, which means no running back into backfield. You have 5 blockers. And it looked like the Chiefs had an empty check. If they saw empty, they were going to bring a 6 rusher to overload that side. And that's exactly what they did. They brought an extra rusher. And when that happens, you have to throw hot because you don't have an extra blocker. So throwing hot, they had Bowers running a short route, but Bowers ends up running right into someone. And then they had Amir Abdullah running a flat route, which was a good option, but Minshew didn't see it. And then they had Thayer Munford at wide receiver running.
That's the guy.
A short screen, which could be a good option.
I'm sure he's wide open. I'm sure he's wide open. Who's covered there? Who's covered Thayer Munford? It's a great play.
Not the guy you want to throw to, on these critical plays.
Maybe Thayer's got hands. I have no idea. I think I'm dying to ask Luke about that one. I don't know what the hell the plan, what the goal was there, but definitely it doesn't look great if you're a Raider fan. And on the play where Minshew fumbles, you got Thayer Munford out wide. What the fuck? What the fuck are we doing? But
but if he threw him the ball, he got the first. I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be saying anything.
I'm dying to ask Luke on Thursday what the hell that was, and that plus the whole Max Crosby fullback thing is really odd to me. But yeah, they're trying some different shit. So, hey man,
I think the idea is, all right, you get a 6 O-lineman in. The Chiefs are going to put their base defense on because they think you're going to run the ball. And then you split out an empty, and then they waste a corner covering Thayer Munford, and you have some better matchups on inside. That's a theory, I think. But obviously it didn't work out. And the last thing I want to get to is the Raiders spiked the ball twice on that last drive. They spiked the ball. And this is kind of inconsequential, but it kind of shows you, like, where this Raiders team is at. They spiked the ball with 2:44 left, and they spiked the ball with 2:15 left. Like, Homer Smith, who wrote the book on games management, says you should never spike the ball unless you absolutely have to, because you're wasting a down. You're still using time. You could use that time to run a play, like just run anything you could run a goal line. You could run like a back shoulder fade and, have it fall incomplete if you have to. But they had so much time, and it just shows that this team isn't prepared. Like, you should have a mechanism in your offense that allows you to just run something at that point and not just waste that down. It didn't mattering, but it just kind of shows you like the incompetence with this team right now.
Homer Smith, man,
fine.
don't go against Homer
Whoever
Smith,
Homer
man.
Smith is.
Don't go
But I
against
mean,
what he
it
says.
was like on a serious. I do think this was like probably Antonio Pierce. I can't think of maybe off the top of my head. I thought look back to last season, but this was probably his worst game management game as head coach to this point. I mean, between the end of the first half thing, the after interception that series, wasting 3 timeouts for inexplicable reasons, like it was pretty bad. And I think it, again, like we said at the top of the podcast, like that's not the only reason that they lost to the Chiefs, but I think it was a pretty big one, and it cost them to, that was one of the reasons why they failed to capitalize on this opportunity.
Yeah,
it's an issue for sure. Definitely, it's something that when we look back at this year and you kind of grade Antonio Pierce, definitely that's going to be a big part of his grade. And like you said, you want to see progress, and you want to see. I don't know if he's going to address how it definitely works, who's telling who what in the headphones, and what the chain of command is, and who. But it definitely is. It's definitely an issue. And you're right. Today was not good. Today definitely that halftime thing was exactly what you don't want to do is give the Chiefs 3 points at the end of a half because obviously points are valuable.
Yeah. I mean, when the Raiders do get competitive, that's the plan, right? One day to be a competitive team.
Not if, it should win. I like it.
Yeah,
is this guaranteed?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
All right,
You've been waiting 20 years for that shit.
They're going to be a competitive team one day. You
I like it.
These decisions when you're fighting for a playoff spot or you're in the playoffs. Like, you just can't make these decisions, and it's just, this team is not good enough for you to like lose the game on game management issues. It's just infuriating to me, but it is what it is. Let's give props to the Raiders defense because again, they were very good and gave this team a chance to win the game. But the offense couldn't capitalize. Fans want us to be more positive. And one positive was Tyree Wilson had a sack, and he played well. Had a few pressures in this game against the Chiefs. So there's that, and yeah, again, the Raiders defense is not why they're losing these games.
It might have been Jack Jones' best game. I thought another positive. I thought he played pretty well. He's kind of been a guy that we're counting on at the beginning of the year, and he hasn't really done much until now.
Yeah, I think guys are making plays all 3 levels. I mean, Robert Spillane, he got hurt early, but came back in and had 12 tackles. I thought Trayvon Merrick had a really good game, not just the interception, but he was also making plays in the run game. Ja'Cory and Bennett, along with Jack Jones, played pretty well. Nate Hobbs made a pretty big play when he kind of punched the ball out from Xavier Worthy on one of those Chiefs red zone possessions that made him settle for a field goal. So really couldn't ask for too much more from the defense. I mean, they did give up a couple of long drives, but the offense really didn't do him any favors. Like I said, they squandered that Merrick interception and then put them in a bad situation again after Minshew's fumble at the end of the game. So, I mean, 14 of those points, the Chiefs scored really run up on the offense. So, doesn't make them feel any better, like Max Crosby was saying after the game, but at least the defense was competitive in this one.
Yeah, and I respect effort, man. It's hard to keep playing when these things are happening, but defensively, I just feel like they play with a lot of effort, and they're going hard. And
I think offense is going hard too. I think the offense is not lollygagging. I think the O-line's not great, but I think they're trying. I think we saw today Myers and again, I don't know what happened with Bauer. Bowers looked so good the first 2 drives, had 10 points. And then I'm curious to watch the film, I guess, and talk to people and kind of see what the Chiefs did. But he was having his way early on. And the Chiefs are not very good this season. I think they're one of the worst among covering tight ends. So it was kind of a weird glitch there. But he's got to be involved. He's clearly, with Devontae gone now, he's clearly the number 1 guy. And he needs more than 3 touches through 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, well, we talked about it on Friday's podcast. Spags is he's one of the best at taking away your best threat. Like, there's some teams with maybe 2 or 3 mechanisms to take away your best player. He has, 6, 7, 8, 8 of it. And if you look back in the games, like the number one threat of an offense just doesn't do very well against a Spags defense. Not saying that's excuse not to even target Brock Bowers for, I don't know, what, 2.5 quarters, but it was kind of expected that Bowers. Well, I kind of expected Bowers to have a pretty poor game. But all right, let's get into questions.
Well, no, let's talk about I think we can get into the play calling a little bit with Luke
Okay.
Getsy. Um, I guess it's pretty bad right now. I mean, this game, we just hit on not throwing to Bowers for basically 3 quarters was puzzling. The insistence on handing the ball off to Alexander Madison in the game where he averaged 1 yard a carry was pretty crazy. Um, and it's just weirdly conservative. There's so many like second and long runs from this team. Like it's almost like you're not even really giving yourself a chance to move the ball, and it just didn't really make sense in this one, particularly when the pass game was working early. Like I know it ended up not working out, toward the end there, but I didn't understand what the plan was and why they were playing that way. And AP was asked after the game, would he consider making the play caller change? It doesn't sound like that's in the cards. And we've talked about before, like they don't. I mean, what would they do if they did take away his play calling duties? Like Scott Turner, I guess, pass game coordinator. He's a former offensive coordinator, but I don't really know how good those Washington Commanders offenses were, from 2020 to 2022. So who's to say that he would be any better than Luke Getsy in this role? But even if it's not him losing his duties, like something has to change because it was pretty bad in this one.
Just stop running the ball. That's all. That's my change.
But do you think the insistence on running the ball is all on Getsy, or do you think maybe
I think
Antonio Pierce has something to do with it?
Yeah, I think we don't really know. I asked me the question. I'm not sure we're going to get answered because Pierce has talked about how he wants to have this culture where you run the ball and you're physical on defense, and that's kind of what he wants. And so I'm sure when they talk about it and like, hey man, we really stink at running the ball. Well, we got to get better. Well, we really stink, but we got to get better. So it's going to be effort and execution. We got to like have the alignment and we're in sync. So I think it's definitely they're not giving up. And I mean, at some point they're going to have a breakthrough, maybe, but. Like today, I mean, I think you can see that teams are not really worried about the Raiders running the ball. And I think, I mean, again, Zamir White's kind of had a bad year. He was hurt, now he's back. But I do think it's weird how a guy who ran for 145 yards against a team, 9 months ago, gets 2 carries. And he had 2 carries for -1 yards. But, I mean, he had great success against this very same Chiefs team pretty recently with, a lot of the same personnel. So I thought it was weird he didn't get more of a shot today.
Yeah, I agree. Like especially once Madison was playing as poorly as he was, like if you're gonna keep running the ball, at least hand it off to somebody different at that point. And I'm sure blocking was a factor as well, but
Yeah.
you got to be able to make some guys miss, run some guys over. And I think Zamir has a little bit more explosiveness in that way. I know hasn't been a season he expected or anybody expected for him due to injury and then just poor performance, but I would have given him a more of a look in this one outside of 2 carries.
The old line's been banged up. I know Parham's was out today. And they also lost Andre James at one point. I think he had an ankle injury. He was walking around
Mm.
pretty gingerly in the locker room. So, yeah, so that's also an issue, just on the health of the lower line. And they're struggling already. It took Colton Miller a while to get kind of back into form. He's playing better, but today had a couple of penalties. And, they had some bad timing with the penalties today. I think 4 or 5 false starts that kind of killed them. So, the O line is definitely part of the issue, not just on the running backs or on Minshew or on Luke Getsy. Like that's what talking to Madison today. He's like, people talk about the play calling, but I mean, it's really all of us. I mean, no one's doing great. No one's like, oh, I'm doing great, and especially you guys stink. They all have issues.
Yeah. And I mean, again, to me, the biggest issue was just the blitz plan. Like you're playing a Spags defense, you have to have a blitz plan, and either Gardner Minshew was not executing it. He wasn't checking into the right plays, or he wasn't throwing hot or looking in the right directions to throw hot, or he wasn't getting into the right protections. Whatever it was, the blitz plan wasn't there. And to me, that's just very bad thing, especially when you're playing a defense as aggressive as the Chiefs. So, you guys ready to get to fan questions?
Yeah, sure. Let's roll.
Okay. All right. Sam DeMan, who asked 2 questions, is also donated $5 for this question and $2 for the next.
We're
We'll go
such
with
whore.
I don't
We're
even think they're
such whore.
questions. I think they're just
We're such
statements.
whores.
okay.
Good.
Let's read a statement. I watched it in the Mexican channel, and even the Mexican commentators were like, "What the hell is Getsy doing?" On, I called it 3-14 after week 1 loss.
Congratulations for calling that, man. Good job, Sam. 3-14. Congrats on your prediction.
Only 1 win? I guess it's possible.
Who knows?
Right. His next comment is, "We have the worst head coach, OC, QB in the league."
Like the
I
trio?
don't know about that one. Let me think who's worse.
The Carolina Panthers?
Carolina Panthers
I
are about,
Panthers are
Tennessee.
bad.
Tennessee's not good. I like Brian Callahan. We had a rough year. Who else?
Well, I guess the Panthers did beat the Raiders, so I guess they had to.
Yeah, it was just like that goes down with the
They got Bryce Young now, though.
with the Jeff Saturday game. It's really things that should never ever happen. But yeah, whatever. I mean, obviously, the quarterback thing has not worked out. But we're here. We are where we are. So
That's right. The road to a franchise quarterback in the first round is a tough one, and you got to take your lumps on this road. So,
weren't there some big wins today? Like the Patriots won, right? That's good for the Raiders. And who else?
Yeah.
What other bad team won today?
The Browns won.
Browns won. Woo! Look at that.
Yeah, man.
Just Tank podcast, baby.
All right. Next question. Why did Bowers disappear in the second half?
It's a great question. We have no answer. I mean,
Probably schematics. I'm pretty sure Spags, did a good job of bracketing him, playing cloud coverage over him. They were throwing different bodies at him. They had Trent McDuffie, who's one of the best corners in the league, on him at one point too. So, I mean, not an excuse to not even look his direction in 2.5 quarters, but Spags does this a lot. He does this to guys like Jamar Chase and stuff like that too. So, but you got to find a way to get him the ball somehow, even if you hand him off a jet sweep or something. Get him the ball.
Man, you gotta check on your dog, man. You gotta make sure he's all right. Need a break to grab him.
He's hungry, man. Why don't you feed your dog, man? He's hungry.
But yeah, I mean, with Brock Bowers, like, in terms of him getting open down the field, I'm sure Spags made adjustments, but even still, like you said, I mean, you can get creative in how you get him the ball. I mean, we talked about it the whole off season and lead up to the season. Like, this is a guy that you can line him up in the backfield as an H-back. You can give him the ball directly on jet sweeps. You could throw him screens, bubble screens. Like, it doesn't have to be a 10, 15-yard pass to get him the ball. So even if they are double covering him or have some extra help, safety over the top or whatever, like, he can't go the entire with the last 3 quarters essentially without getting the ball.
We were joking to the press box. He's got 1 carry this year for 12 yards. Why not give him a second carry or a third carry? I don't understand why it worked so well the one time. Like, let's not ever do that again because we're going to wait. I just don't understand. I mean, I think you can give the guy the ball. Like you said, you can give him the backfield. You can line him out wide. He's definitely an explosive athlete who needs the ball in his hands. And I think there's ways you can. I'm sure Harrison Bryant. I mean, I love how I keep saying he was a big loss, but he was. I mean, he didn't play today, and he would have been helpful in terms of the 12 personnel and different looks. Yeah,
and what happened to the Brock Bowers playing fullback stuff they were doing in the preseason?
Yeah.
Like, you get them the ball that way. They had Max Crosby lined up back there. Why not have Bowers lined up back there? You run a little play action, get him open into flats, stuff like that. Find ways to get your best players the ball, and they haven't done a good job of that.
Effing Getsy.
You got to ask him.
Okay.
All right, next question. If and when the Raiders move on from Luke Getsy in the offseason, who do you think they realistically will target? From Eric Galvin.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it depends who's looking for a job at that point. But it also depends, if assuming that, everybody else that currently works for the coaching staff still has their job. Like I do think like Pierce will be back for a second year, but in a scenario that I don't know, Ben Johnson or something like that, one of those offensive coordinators who are rising head coaching candidates become available and they hired them, then that could become the offensive coordinator by proxy. But that's very far down the line, and Getsy has to get fired in the first place for that to happen. But I do think that, while the circumstances are less than ideal, we've talked about the quarterback play, the offensive line play, losing Devontae Adams, Michael Mayer being away from the team right now. There's plenty of reasons, or I guess excuses you could say for Getsy to not have the best offense in the world. But I do think there are certain, just like we said with Pierce, like there has to be certain things that you see growth in. Like this offense, Ted's talked about it a lot. Like they're really missing those details that make plays come together. Like I think he's tried some creative things, but it just doesn't. The execution isn't there. Like we joked about the Munford play, but like it's cool in theory, but like when it comes to actually making that work, like they aren't capable of doing it. And so I think if you don't see any growth, or development or progress, in the offense by the end of the year, kind of have to consider your options.
Speaking of Ben Johnson and old lineman playing wide receiver, that the Lions actually lined up. I think Dan Skipper at wide receiver out before. Maybe that's where Luke Getsy got the idea from. The only difference is they were up like 40-14 when that happened, and the Raiders were down 7 points when Munford was out there. But yeah, I as far as replacements, I think it's just way too early. Like we don't know who's going to be available. If AP does get fired, then I guess Ben Johnson would be my number one choice, and the number one choices for a lot of teams. Any names you want to throw out there, Vic?
I think I'll throw one in there just because people. I think Hugh Jackson was close to joining the staff last year. A lot of things happened, but I think he was in the mix, and he and AP are tight. And I think obviously has a good track record as an OC. I'm not sure he'd be OC or be an advisor, but I could see Hugh getting in the mix at some point.
Is there a limit on how many advisors you can have? Because I feel like the Raiders have like 50 of them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's probably
the biggest coaching staff in the league, right?
Yeah, that's probably clearly it's not working. So maybe you gotta trim some of the fat because they're having problems with, like you mentioned, game stuff and some of the play calling and things that coaches should have worked out by now. So maybe there are too many coaches on the staff.
All right, next question from TC. Does Andre James's injury clear the way to softly bench him?
Soft. I like the softly phrase. Like, hey, have a seat, take a break, rest up, your ankles screw, and then never get up. I don't think so. I think they like Andre James too. I know he's not played that well so far, but I don't know if the alternatives are really a lot better at this point. I think you like his veteran presence in there, and it's a very young O-line, so I think he definitely helps in that way. So I don't get the sense that he's in danger of losing his job. They gave him a pretty good contract last offseason, so I don't think my sense is that there would be no soft benchings of Andre James.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously if he's hurt, then he's hurt and he's out. And
Right.
it seemed like the plan would be to move JPJ to center. I mean, that was his best position in college, and what most people probably thought he was going to play at the next level. And he came in, I think it was like the last quarter or so, and he was at center, and they put in Cody Whitehair at left guard. And so we don't know the severity of James's ankle injury right now, but if he does miss time moving forward, it looks like it would be JPJ at center.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it, but I'd be interested to see a line with Miller, JPJ, Parham at center, Meredith at guard, and Glaze at right tackle. I'd be interested to see that. See how
I mean, Parham,
when Parham does come back.
also hurt right now.
Yeah, when he does come back.
And Mumford out wide.
Yeah, and Mumford out wide. Perfect. All right. Do we have anyone on this staff that can develop a rookie quarterback?
Yeah, Luke Getsy, man. Luke Getsy and Rich Scrangello.
Yeah, Scrangello.
Yeah, I know Scott Turner. Yeah.
Joe Philbin.
Joe Philbin. Whew. So many. Marvin Lewis. Whew. That's not that's not his forte. But ideally, you're getting a guy good enough where he doesn't need a whole lot of coaching. Like I was, Jay Daniels, I'm sure is coachable, but he's got a special gift where, I
Doesn't
mean,
need
he's.
no coaching. What? What is?
I'm saying, I mean, like he's got the you see it, the brilliant quality. He can make plays and outside of what's scripted, and kind of has that intangible leadership quality, makes guys better around him. That's the guy you want in your franchise quarterback. So I'm just saying, yeah, they all need coaching, but I think the guys you want who are really their franchise kept guy, like the top 3 guys in the draft this year, seem like they're all kind of guys who. What's the word I'm looking for? Are naturals and kind of just don't need a lot of heavy-handedness in terms of coaching. That makes sense? No,
I guess I don't know, not really.
whatever.
But
I
yeah,
just
I mean, I
mentioned
know
it.
a lot of people have like asked the theoretical, like if they're in position to draft a quarterback, like essentially, do they trust his coaching staff? And I don't think you necessarily have to make a coaching change just because you're drafting a quarterback and like your coach isn't an offensive-minded head coach or whatever. So I don't think that's like one guarantees the other, if they're bad enough to be a top 5 pick or something like that. Because again, like with already coming into this year, like I don't really know how high expectations were, even the most optimistic people for this team, and especially after all the injuries and whatnot. Like I don't know, what do you really expect for the Raiders the rest of the season?
Plus, you got number 12, man. Number 12's in the building. Quarterback guru, the GOAT,
Oh yeah, Tom Brady. Yeah,
Tom Brady.
he's technically what Mark Davis said. He's going to draft him and train him. So there you
Yep,
go.
there you go. Hey, man, we're giving you a lot of money. You're going to be even more rich than you are now, but you got to help out. You got to pick a quarterback and trade him.
All right, there we go.
It's a fair
Tom
deal.
Brady's in the building, and he's going to take care of it.
Yep.
All right, Eric Twin Green. Do you think it's going to be sweeping? There's going to be sweeping changes coaching wise after the season.
I don't think so. I think ideally you can, like we talked about this, you can frame it in a way where, you wanted a quarterback, you didn't get one. You had injuries on defense. So I think you can kind of, I think they were really happy with the coaching staff going into the year as far as, the different mixes of experienced guys, younger guys. Like I think they like their staff. So I don't know if that's changed a lot in the last 2 months, but there's always a scapegoat usually, but I don't know if there'd be huge changes as far as the throughout the entire staff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I caught up with Mark Davis down at the owners' meetings earlier this month, and he seemed to be like in a patient mindset. Like at that point, there was 2 losses, 2 losses ago, I guess. But so things have gotten worse since he's talked. But I just don't see him making an in-season change or even after the season. It seems like he wants to legitimately, give this some time and be patient with it and kind of just put an end to the constant turnover this franchise has been in and all the different regimes and head coaches and GMs and whatnot. So, and he understands, like, Antonio Pierce, like he's a young coach. I mean, when he hired him, he only had a decade of coaching experience when they hired him this offseason. So there's still going to be growing pains. But with that being said, like I wrote today, like you still have to see progress. I mean, he's 17 games in now, if you count his interim stint, so there's a full season's worth of games, and he's still making some of these pretty bad, game management decisions like we talked about earlier. And so by the end of the season, you got to see at least some growth when it comes to that stuff. If it's as bad as it is now, or gets worse by chance, then maybe you start considering things in the offseason.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you guys keep progress because when this team is in a better position, like you can't when you're losing
It's not going to get
games.
in a better position if you're doing stuff like that.
Exactly. But I don't know, man. Like you're the CEO type of head coach. You're not calling the offense. You're not calling the defense. You got to be able to be better on these. Like, and it's been not only bad, it's been god awful. So,
Oh, god awful! Wow.
honestly, I don't see a worse coach at this in the league.
I mean,
Maybe somebody correct me. Maybe is there somebody worse? Let me know because I haven't seen it. And
I'm sure you're watching more game management stuff around the league than we are, so I trust your judgment if you think it's that bad. But yeah, we've talked about it. I think Antonio knows about it. He's asked about it enough times where he knows something's got to change, either with the people he's working with or who's advising him or just the process. But clearly, something's wrong in the whole way it's working right now. I think he has to realize he's not. Antonio's a smart guy. I think he always says he learns pretty quick, and he was always touted when he's played. He was a captain and leader, kind of a smart guy who always knew not only his role but the other guy's role and the game plans. And all the coaches he played for said that. So I think he's clearly aware of what the problems are with this team, and one of them clearly is his performance and his staff's performance in these kind of situations. So again, like we said, we want to see improvement. And so is Mark Davis, I'm sure, the rest of the season.
You guys gotta ask him if he plays Madden or if he grew up playing Madden, because
I will not be asking him. I will not be asking that question.
That's gonna solve his issues playing Madden. That'll teach him
it's like it's like the Army. They use virtual simulations to train their guys, put themselves in situations. Like, find any way to train yourself in these situations. All right. Daniel Aguilar asks, any update on Mayer?
Nope.
No, yeah, that's all we can really share. So, but
he's also currently on the non-football illness list, so he has to miss at least 3 more games,
right?
Or 2 more games after this game. So he couldn't come back anyway.
Do you guys see him coming back at some point this season?
I think we can say that. I think that we both agree that that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I think it'll be later.
Yeah, I think it's important to respect the guy's privacy. Obviously, something's going on, and I wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't want him to speak to what the issue is and what the timeline is, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think you could say the expectation is he's back this season at some point.
All right, last question.
Come on, man. So negative, man. People get mad at us for being negative. What kind of question is this? People can say we're negative. Are they going to win another game this season? Come on, man.
Of course.
Come on, Raider fans. Be better than this.
Of course they're going to win another game this season.
All right, so they're losing next week because they play the
bunch of mopey bastards.
They're gonna win. They're gonna win another game. Man, they got the Dolphins. They've been pretty bad. You got the Broncos again. The Chargers are always beatable. Jaguars, Saints. Yeah, they got some winnable games in there.
I mean, this team is like, as far as talent, they're kind of like middle of the pack, maybe a little below the middle of the pack. Like they're not a god awful team talent wise. I disagree. I think they're clearly below average without Devontae and without Christian Wilkins and Marcus Epps.
I think they're clearly below talent. I think they're clearly below average. I think.
Would you say bottom 5? Or
I don't know about bottom 5, but yeah, it's not good. I mean, I think we talked about the receiver depth. It's not really good. The O-line still a question mark. I think the D-line's definitely done a good job stepping up. You mentioned Tyree and the guys like John Jenkins. Adam Butler's played well this year, so the defensive guys have stepped up. I think for the most, Paul Miles been fine. I know you were raving about him, but he's been solid. Today you couldn't chase down Mahomes on 3rd and 12, but that's all right. But
Fred Warner couldn't chase him down.
Wow.
There's just something about him. He's just like always just fast enough to get away from you. I don't know what it is about him.
He's a special athlete, for sure. He's the best guy in the league. So, but yeah, I think their talent's not great. But I don't know what Wilkins' deal is when he's going to come back, or if they come back this year. But they play hard, and some team will look past them at some point, and or more than one team will. And yeah, I think they'll win a couple. They'll win at least. They'll win some more games. I'm not sure how many, but definitely they won't go winless.
You have to put a number on it. Just one more. That's one more is the question. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not sure you go cigars again if you win a game. They probably lose the cigar thing at this point this year, but there'll be a happy locker room at some point.
I mean, but I think they were only blown out by the Panthers, which is kind of weird, right? But
I mean, the Steelers kicked them.
Steelers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Steelers. What they definitely had their opportunities in the Steelers game.
Really?
too,
I'm saying
but
it was
yeah, I
still a
guess the
blowout,
Steelers
like
will.
whatever it was. Yeah, they've I think they have three two-score losses. No, four. Yeah, they've lost. The Steelers beat them by a good amount. The Broncos beat them by a good amount. Chargers beat them by
Yeah.
12, and then the Panthers. So, I mean, they've
So,
had some close losses, but
in a few of those games where it was close for a while, the defense kind of got tired and kind of
Exactly.
gave some play.
Yeah.
So the score was definitely it got bigger than I thought it was going to be. But there haven't been that many close losses really. I mean, I guess today is a close loss, I guess. But again, they were down 14, and they got the gift touchdown at the end. So I don't
I
know.
mean, it was close for most of the game.
Yeah, it was. It was
Didn't
fun.
really didn't get cushiony until like midway through the fourth quarter. So I say this was a close loss. I'll give them that.
You never really thought they were going to win, though. I never thought they were had a chance to win.
Oh, of
If
course
they had
not.
scored, if they had scored after the turnover, if they had scored in those, so the goal line stand, then I think okay, maybe they got a shot to win this game. But that didn't happen. So you never kind of made that leap in logic. We're like, oh, this is actually a winnable game.
I
To
mean,
use a Ted Win phrase, the winnable game.
once they pick the ball up and return it to the 3-yard line, I'm sure like, oh, they're going to score some points here. I definitely thought that. I didn't think they would come out with fucking zero.
Man,
So I mean,
all you guys do is yell at Antonio for like, I may kick field goals, you never go for it. Now it goes for it, and see what happens. See, so you can't win. The poor guy can't win.
Yeah. I mean, I think even in those blowout losses, they were competitive for the most part. And then, like you said, it kind of like got blown out in the fourth quarter.
All right.
But I mean, I feel like this team plays hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we
they
crash
play
APL
hard.
all we
But it's
want,
not that.
but I think this team played
Yeah.
hard, and
Yeah,
they just
we can give them that.
yeah.
Don't most teams in the NFL play hard? I mean, I hope that's
Did you
not
see
like
Titans today?
I did not see Titans today. They didn't play hard.
Oh,
I
they
think it was 60
they
to
just
3 or some shit like that.
I think they knew that the Titans were like, all right, we're trading away all these guys. Let's just give it up. And some of the touchdowns they gave up today were ridiculous. But whatever.
all right.
We're not a Titans podcast, but
Okay.
yeah. Okay. But that's all we have for you guys today. We'll be back on Friday when we will preview the next game. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe on YouTube, and comment and rate wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we will see you next week.
I read some of these comments. One guy says, "What the fuck? Hello." I guess he wanted you to call him Jordan. You must like, "Miss sorry, Jordan."
No, he was talking about Ted was saying that they didn't have blowout losses. He said Steelers,
Ah.
Broncos, Panthers.
What
He was like, what the fuck, Ted?
What the fuck,
Getting
Ted?
our ass kicked.
How come we didn't read that question, Ted? You skipped that one. What the fuck, Ted?
Hey,
Jordan
Neil
says, "What the
chooses
fuck,
these questions,
Ted?"
Right? Neil chooses these questions, not me.
Hey, Neil, I want that question next time. What the fuck, Ted? It's a great question. Oh my goodness, I appreciate that, Neil. How you doing, man? Neil's the Raider fan in the building. How you doing? How you holding up?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Shout out to DJ Turner. Shout out to DJ Turner for his first receiving
Shout out to
touchdown.
DJ. Oh, that's beautiful, man. Shout out DJ Turner, man. Let's keep it positive. What else can we shout out? Who else?
Listen, I could bring
I think
positivity all day.
that's
Well, I need one more. Give me one more, Neil. One more shout out. Who else you got?
Jacoby Myers. Come on.
Yeah, man. Exactly. Came back big. I like it. There you go. We're getting Neil's positivity on this podcast a little more in the future.
Every
I like
week.
it.
I'll bring it every week.
Every week. Oh, see?
There we go.
That's what I'm talking about, Raider fans. Come on. Get through this together. It's beautiful. Oh, well. At the Bengals. It's a tough one.
yeah. Well, we can wrap it up.
All right, boys. Thanks
All right,
for
guys.
Peace.
adios.